Hi everyone! We are excited to bring our Stigma panel back this year.
This panel will discuss a lot of heavier topics and stories such as
mental health,
anxiety,
depression,
loss of a family member,
LGBTQ plus topics,
chronic illness,
and suicide.
If you feel uncomfortable at any point, please feel free to step out.
On the stage near the door, there will be bathroom passes that you could grab if needed.
If you grab a pass, we will know that you would like a few minutes alone.
However, if you do not grab a pass, Christian, Juliana, or I will step out to make sure you are okay.
We'd also like to remind everyone that these are personal stories.
We ask that you please show respect to all of our panelists as they chose to share their stories.
Last year, we got some great feedback on our panel.
However, audience members said that they would have liked to hear more of the panelists' personal stories.
This year, we asked all participants to send us a short video clip before the start of the actual Stigma panel.
My name is Ariel. I graduated from Ramapo in December of 2018, so about 8 months now. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My major was psychology. I also minored in gender studies. And I am an out, proud transgender woman. So my topic is going off of that I was one of the only out trans people that I knew coming into Ramapo. I was the only out trans woman or trans feminine person that I knew my freshman year. And that was really hard. I didn't have anyone to look up to. I didn't have anyone that I felt within the Ramapo community I could relate to on that specific part of my identity. And I felt in a lot of ways like I was carving my own path, like I was paving my own way as I went along. Luckily, my freshman year was one of the first years that Ramapo offered freshman students gender-inclusive housing, which would have been a huge issue and is actually one of the main reasons that I chose Ramapo over other schools I was considering. Ramapo offered gender-inclusive housing, which meant that you could apply online to be housed with people of any gender. And so I ended up with a roommate who identified as non-binary and 4 other roommates who identified as cis women, cisgender being identifying as the gender you were assigned at birth. 2 of them were also in the LGBT community with other identities. So that was one of the first things I felt like I was navigating at Ramapo in terms of being trans, was finding a housing situation in which I felt accepted and comfortable. And I was very blessed my freshman year to have great roommates, great living situation. Another situation that I had to navigate, though, was then entering into classrooms and being trans in those spaces. And I was not nearly as confident back then in my identity as I am now. Now I am outspoken, I'm proud of who I am, I'm proud to be trans. I am confident in how I look and how I walk through the world. But back then I was just starting my transition and I was terrified and I felt really alone a lot of the time. I was struggling with relationships with my family. I was struggling to find information on how to transition. I was struggling with a concept of what my transition would look like. Would I ever be happy? Would I ever find love? What did my future look like? And I was struggling with all these things, and then entering into the classroom and having that weight on me and not having many peers who could relate to that experience was really hard, in addition to having to advocate for myself, which was something I wasn't comfortable doing at the time, for my pronouns to be used, for my name to be used. At the time, my name hadn't been changed legally because I was just starting my transition, so I had to email every professor, hey, this is my name. And whenever I emailed someone, I had to, make sure that I very clearly put my name and my pronouns in my email signature. And even then, I was sometimes misgendered. I was lucky to never have a professor who misgendered me in the classroom or had any sort of issue using my pronouns, using my name. But there are a lot of people who are not so fortunate. And frankly, I wasn't 100% confident that that would be my reality freshman year. I didn't know that it would be as wonderfully accepting a community as it is. Navigating a social life was also really hard. Not having other trans femme people who I could relate to made it very difficult to have friends who I connected with on a deeper level, especially because that year my transition was the focus of my entire life. It was all I could think about. It was all I was really focused on. And so not being able to have friends who I felt I could connect with about that was really hard. And not to mention that year I was not talking to my father. I came out to him 2 years prior, but I'd since recloseted myself, and I officially came out again that September. He had a very, very hard time with it, and luckily he's come around since, but freshman fall, I had a terrible phone call with him where he said some really awful things to me, and we didn't speak for 8 months until my 21st birthday. And that was incredibly traumatic and difficult to be processing, on top of the ongoing issue of like, what did my transition look like? So there's just a lot of issues that I was facing freshman year that I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could reach out to on my campus that would be able to connect or relate to me on what I was going through. So thank you for listening. I don't know how long this is supposed to be, but it's 5 minutes, 49 seconds. So see y'all soon.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Mulligan and I am a senior double majoring in psychology and social work. I am currently the president of the Active Minds chapter on campus, and I had some challenges with being stigmatized as a person with disabilities, especially in high school. As a result, I struggled to maintain friendships as the majority of my peers were in Clarkson High School. I also remember bullying being another challenge, and just with all these issues mounting up, they gave me a dark, depressing feeling, and I even thought about quitting high school. However, during the summer of my junior year, I gave up football to concentrate on getting counseling. Then, during the same year, my therapist recommended that I'd work for the SOAR Experience. The SOAR Experience is a therapeutic daycare program for children with autism. And this wound up being a turning point in my life for 2 reasons. One, I met some of my closest friends to whom I constantly stay in touch with to this day. And it also opened the door to work in the special needs field. Then, after that year at the SOAR Experience, as senior year progressed, I was fully confident again, and I felt like the sky was the limit. And as a matter of fact, this gave me new hope after high school. Then I started taking classes at Bergen Community College, and then during that year after high school, I wound up working at Brian's team. Brian's team was a place that was a recreational center focusing on gymnastics, fitness, motor skills, speech pathology, and ABA training. Then when I returned to the SOAR Experience the following summer, I started taking an interest in psychology because the majority of my coworkers were psychology majors, and ironically enough, they were either Ramapo interns or Ramapo alumni. Then, during my first psychology class, I wound up joining Active Minds throughout a panel discussion because it was an extra credit opportunity for me. And plus, they're also offering mental health first aid courses. And after that day, that's how I became a member of the Active Minds organization.
Hey guys, my name is Toya. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I graduated from Ramapo College spring 2019, this past semester, as a psychology major and a transfer student. When I first moved into Ramapo, fall 2018, I came in crawling. Pretty much, I moved in January 16th, and my grandmother passed January 2nd of the exact same year. 11 days prior, my grandfather passed, and I was devastated to the point where I don't even talk about it to this day. It was very difficult being a new student, being a transfer student, and it was very hard to adjust carrying the weight of both of my grandparents passing. In fact, what a lot of people don't know is every semester after that, another relative passed. My second semester, my uncle passed. The semester after that, a close friend passed. And the most difficult part of it all was I struggled with anxiety very heavy while being at Ramapo College. A huge contribution to that was my feeling of lack of friends that I had. I tried to get involved, and anyone who knows me know that I'm a very social person, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't find, I didn't make that connection. I felt like, no one really took out the time to get to know me. And it was very difficult. A lot of times I felt sad, I felt down. A lot of times I wake up pretty much in tears. And it was even one point, that I felt like, why am I still here? If it's going to be like this. But I thank God because I chose to, keep pushing forward. So it's my advice is just, you never know what a person is going through, even with a smile on their face. So I encourage you all to please, 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 let your peers know just the power of being kind, the power of taking the time to get to know a person just genuinely for who they are, no matter how different they appear, look, or sound to you, because trust me, you probably have no idea what they're going through. Thank you for your time. See you soon.
Hi, my name is Kim Simonovich. I graduated from Ramapo in 2017. I was a math major in the teacher ed department, so I have my teaching cert. I currently teach high school, and I'm back at Ramapo now for grad school doing master's in special education. So I'm stuck at Ramapo, and I love it. So I use stuck in in a good way. Anyway, so my story. When I was going into my senior year of high school, my mom was diagnosed with appendix cancer, and it was actually the day that I was supposed to come tour Ramapo that we found out that she had cancer. So I never toured Ramapo. I just showed up and hoped for the best. So going into senior year, like I said, she got diagnosed, and then by the end of my senior year, her doctors did a scan and she was cancer-free. So I was going into Ramapo really enthusiastic, really excited, very hopeful, and I felt good. Then in October of my freshman year, my mom called me. I'll never forget. I was sitting in the parking lot by the Panera, the Five Guys, the Staples in Ramsey Square, and she called and she had said that they found 2 softball-sized tumors on her ovaries. And so going from hearing in June that her cancer was gone to hearing that in October, that's a really big growth. And so I was quite upset, and I spent the rest of my freshman year going home, coming back to just get the most out of my time with my mom. So my sophomore year of college, my parents actually moved to Colorado because my dad's job transferred him. So that whole time I was really struggling with being away from my mom in such a far distance, compared to freshman year when I could just drive 2 hours home to see her. Now I had to wait for Christmas or wait for summer break to go see her. But she was going through chemo. She had really great doctors out there, so she was in good hands. I spent my whole summer going into junior year of college out in Colorado. And we drove cross country to come back to New Jersey in August for my older sister's wedding. So come time for my older sister's wedding, my mom had decided to stop chemo treatments so that she was, fully there for my sister's wedding. When I decided to come back to Ramapo, well, I didn't decide, I was just coming back. When I came back to Ramapo for my junior year, you know, things kind of took a sharp turn right after my sister's wedding. So I was going home like every weekend, and my roommate would drive, you know, down to South Jersey where my mom was staying with my grandma, just like on a random Tuesday night when they would call and be like, yeah, she's not good. Like, my roommate would just drive down for it with me, and she would just like go to a mall and wait until I was ready to go home. She was the best. And then I kept doing that for, you know, the first like 2 months of college, my junior year, and then at the end of October, my mom unfortunately passed away. So that's my story. I'm excited to talk to you all about the different resources on campus that were there for me, that I found helpful, you know, what I would have wanted my peers to do, or other student leaders. So I'm looking forward to, you know, getting to talk to all of you about this experience, because what you're doing is such a good thing for other people. So keep doing that. See you guys soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Fulcomio. My preferred pronouns are she and her. I graduated from Ramapo College in 2011 as a communication arts major with a concentration in journalism and a psychology minor. And I'm going to be talking to you today about what it was like to be a first-year student with chronic illness, and then to have a chronic illness throughout the rest of my college career and the rest of my life. So chronic illness looks different for everybody who experiences it. I have something called Crohn's disease, which is under the umbrella of IBD, inflammatory bowel disease. It's a digestive disorder, so I had a lot of inflammation through my body, all the way from one end to the other, which is, you know, not fun, and definitely very painful. So it made it hard to kind of just live life, quote unquote, normally, especially coming into college and trying to adjust everything that way. I went for 4 months, so basically my whole first semester undiagnosed, going back and forth to doctor appointments, and, you know, having to miss classes and in and out of the ER. Basically my life revolving around using the bathroom, so dropping a tray in the cafeteria and running to the bathroom, being in class and having to just get up and go and leave, sometimes for long periods of time, which was a little bit embarrassing, and sometimes bringing my textbooks even into the bathroom when I was trying to do homework in my dorm. You know, it was just so much of my life was spent in the bathroom and needing to know where every bathroom was before I went to do something. And meanwhile, I have people telling me that I'm just stressed. I'm stressed to start college and to have, you know, all these changes. And I have had stress and anxiety for many years, so I really knew right away that what I was feeling was pain, and it was very different. But when people keep telling you that something is in your head, you start to wonder and you start to question yourself. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed in December at the end of that first semester when I really felt like I was validated and I knew I wasn't crazy, because I had a diagnosis in front of me and someone telling me, you know, something definitely is wrong, and there's a reason behind your pain. So it was almost a bit of a relief, which may sound weird, but definitely helped me kind of get back on track and know that I had been fighting something that was very real. I was dealing with a lot of fatigue and trying to get used to taking medication all the time, which was not something that I'd ever done before. So trying to keep to a schedule, and, you know, meanwhile you're trying to balance everything else. So it's a lot to kind of take on, especially at that point in your life where you haven't grown up knowing that sort of schedule. So different areas of my life that were impacted, definitely grades, social life, financial factors, and just general living. It was very hard to socialize with people when, you know, you make plans and you have to cancel them, or group of friends go out to an event on campus and you can't go, and then you're seeing pictures of them together and you're just wishing you were there. And then there's those times where you push yourself to go and you only regret it later because you feel worse and are kind of out of commission for, you know, 3 more things because you didn't give your body that time to rest. It's very hard to be a first-year student in college and to not be able to be very active and you're trying to manage keeping your grades up when it's hard to study and sit through a full class, and then you're trying to meet new people and you're running to the bathroom, and I was always concerned people would think I had an eating disorder, so I tried to avoid using the bathroom, which did not work out very well. And you're just concerned. You're concerned about everybody else's perception and opinions, which is probably not the most important thing, but in the mind of a college student, it's something that's definitely on your mind. So there were a lot of missed opportunities to meet people, to hang out with friends, and just having to learn to deal with that. I still hate, to this day, canceling things on people, and learning to say, when you meet someone and 2 weeks go by and you're still not feeling well, and saying, yes, I'm still sick, and how do I explain that to someone when I don't even know what exactly is wrong with me? I was very dependent on my parents for money, for help, for support, and all of this is going on, and I just really wanted to be, again, quote unquote, normal. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you're a freshman in college, you're kind of looking to blend in with the group and really not have yourself stand out in a bad way. And I kind of felt like I was raising my hand and waving a big red flag around, saying, I have this thing wrong with me, and I have to put it out there so everybody is aware that I'm not just, taking 10 steps back because I don't want to be involved, or because I'm not enjoying my connections with people, but there's something that's physically preventing me from doing it. And it's, you have to kind of put on a brave face and be vulnerable in order to do that. So hope that this is helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have today. And thank you so much for appearing and being a resource for Ramapo students.
Hello, so my name is Brianna Douglas. I'm an accounting major, IT minor. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm part of the class of 2021. So the topic that I'll be discussing is my visual impairment. So for some background, I have a condition called RP, and it's a progressive condition. So basically what that means is that my vision will degrade over time. I'm going to talk a little about the different parts of my life that my lack of vision affects. So obviously it affects how I read stuff, so I can't really read posters or signs, but beyond that, it kind of affects the way I recognize people. So I don't recognize people by their features, and by that I mean I don't take note of like your eye color or your eye shape or any of that. I recognize people by their voices and their overall like body shape, just because I just don't take note of like those smaller features. And other than that, my vision does affect my judgment. So by that I mean, say for instance, like you're crossing a road. When you're crossing a road, you look left, you look right, you go. But for me, that doesn't really work, because the car may seem further away than it really is. So if I just rely on my vision alone, bad things will happen, basically. So with stuff like that, I do rely on my hearing a lot. And I guess on the same car topic, my lack of vision also affects driving. So basically, I can't drive because obviously if I don't have good judgment and perception and just can't see overall, me behind the wheel of a car probably wouldn't end well. Okay, so I'm gonna now talk a little about how my vision has impacted the different aspects of like my college career. So I'll say the biggest impact has been socially. So I say that because, like I said before, I don't recognize people by the smaller features. I recognize them by their voices and like their overall body shape. And besides that, what I can't tell, which is I think what my friends, the people who have become my friends, I have been told that a lot of the times when they are like going through the hallways, they would like wave at me and smile at me, and I never responded. So for them, they kind of said that at first they got the impression that I just didn't want to talk to them at all, but really just because of my vision, I don't realize that someone's waving at me or that they're smiling at me. So when that's constantly happening with other people, it really impacts just meeting people overall in general. Besides socially, my vision does affect my academics, but I do have different assistive technologies like magnifiers, distance magnifiers, screen readers, and screen magnifiers. So all of those combined, they kind of help me do my work. And I am very much aware that if I didn't have my softwares and my magnifiers, I honestly wouldn't have came to college because I just wouldn't have been able to do my work. I will say the only problem I really face now will be in terms of professors, and I say that because professors lecture a lot, and one thing that they tend not to understand is when you have a student who has vision problems, you have to be descriptive. So for example, if a professor is doing like a problem that's 4 plus 5 equals 9, they will tend to say stuff like this plus this equals this. And for other students, they can read what they're writing, so it makes sense, but for me, I can't read what's being written on the board, so I'm just lost basically a lot of times during my classes. And I guess I can talk a little financially since it kind of relates to the assistive technologies that I was just talking about. So I have a number of devices. Like I have a handheld magnifier, I have a kind of 2-in-1 tablet and distance magnifier. I have multiple magnification softwares and screen reader softwares on my laptop, and all of these cost a lot. So for example, my handheld magnifier was $3,000, and that's one of the less costly equipments that I have. So that really affects your financials, because if you, like my first semester, I think with all the equipment that I had, it came up to like $15,000. Lucky enough, I had assistants paying for them, but if I didn't have assistants paying for those, that would have, honestly, it would have been the difference between me coming to college and not coming to college. And I guess the last aspect that I'll talk about will be my living status. So I'll end with this because this wasn't something I really thought about. When I was going through high school, I knew I was going to live on campus just because I did not want to be home anymore. But after coming to Ramapo, I kind of realized that I don't really have a choice to live on campus or not. And I say this because Ramapo isn't the most accessible campus. So everyone knows there's the shuttle to the train station, but like that's a little bit of a distance away. And if the shuttle isn't running, then there's really no way to get from the train station to school. So I kind of had to live on campus because, like I stated before, I can't drive, and since I can't drive, the only way for me to get to school from where I live would be to take a bus to the train station, and because of my specific town, I would have to do a transfer to 2 trains and then take the shuttle, and that will take like an hour and a half. And if you guys didn't know, in the business school, a lot of classes are very early, so for me to make it to my 8 a.m. classes, I would have to leave at like 6 a.m. and be awake maybe 5 in the morning, and that's not something I want to do.
Hey everyone, my name's Kelly. My preferred pronouns are she/her. I'm a graduate of Ramapo College. I graduated in 2018 with my bachelor's in psychology, and I was a peer facilitator during my time at Ramapo for 2 years. I'm currently going for my master's in social work at Rutgers University. I'm going into my 2nd year of that program. So the stigmatized group that I will be discussing today is those dealing with mental health problems, because I myself struggle with that. I've dealt with it since I was about 3 years old. I am diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, which mainly pertains to cleanliness and grooming rituals. So getting ready, the whole process, showering, getting dressed, all of that, can take up to 5 to 6 hours. It's gotten a lot better since I've been in treatment for it for many years. But that's kind of the main, I'd say my main core problem that I still struggle with the most. I'm also diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, so I kind of just have a lot of anxiety about everything. So mixed with OCD, it's kind of just like a lot of obsessions and rituals that I perform to relieve the obsessions, but of course it's kind of like a cycle that kind of one thing affects the other. It's a big domino effect. I also struggle with major depressive disorder, so I get in kind of just bouts of depression where it's really hard to, you know, find motivation to do things, which is really difficult for me because I'm motivated and a perfectionist, so kind of being held back by something like that is like really hard for me, and again kind of causes just more anxiety. And along with all of that, some struggles that come with that are self-harm and suicidal thoughts and ideations. I've been hospitalized for that on a psychiatric unit a couple of times. And I also struggled with an eating disorder. Luckily I'm 3 years in recovery from that though. So I received treatment for this, like I said, like my whole life, but when I got to college, it was kind of more difficult because it was this huge transition and I was already struggling with some stuff. And I think my biggest problem in college was kind of just the stigma towards mental health, both from others and myself. I think I kind of stigmatized myself and kind of decided that that was weird and something I needed to keep to myself. And because I was so good at putting on a mask and covering things up, it made it kind of even worse. Because, you know, it was kind of hidden so well that I was like, well, if I tell anyone, it's kind of not going to seem that serious because, you know, I seem fine. And I think that's the biggest thing I struggled with, was that I always seemed fine. So it was always super hard to talk about because, you know, it did affect me getting to class and the pressure I put on myself. And sometimes I would need extra time on assignments, or when I was even hospitalized and went back to treatment, you know, I was still pushing myself to get my work done. And it was just always hard to go to professors about it because I never really knew what to say. So I kind of just struggled a lot, like internally about it. And again, I was in treatment and therapy for it, but it's really hard when you have to go to school and kind of just pretend everything's fine. Luckily, I happened to get great roommates. I was truly blessed during that experience because they were amazing. So my social life, I'd say, wasn't really affected because I was just really lucky and had some amazing friends that I made at Ramapo. So I guess nothing was really specifically affected. It was kind of just my mental health continued to, I wouldn't say worsen, but it was kind of just like stayed the same. It was stagnant. It was just not getting better or worse, which wasn't really good for 4 years to kind of just be in that spot. It was just something I struggled with. But I mean, over time, I opened up about it more, and I kind of realized that there shouldn't be this stigma. So I worked on campus to kind of help eliminate that stigma and decided to just speak out about it because it's nothing that I should be ashamed of, really. So thank you all for listening to my story, and I look forward to discussing with you all later how you as campus leaders can help students with experiences similar to mine, because mental health is such an important topic.
Start thinking about any questions that you may have for our panelists for later.
When you enter into H-Wing, we will hand everyone slips of paper. At the end of the panel, we encourage you to leave positive notes for the panelists.
There will be marked envelopes to put your slips in as you leave.
As a student leader, we hope this will help guide future conversations about stigma.